What if the exact skills that got you your last promotion are the ones actively disqualifying you for your next one?
It is a genuinely scary thought.
Right. I mean, think about it for a second. You do everything right. You put in all the extra hours.
You're hitting every single one of your KPIs.
Exactly. All those key performance indicators that management is obsessed with tracking, like your sales quotas or, your project delivery times.
You are basically the model employee by all traditional metrics.
Yes. But then the promotion cycle rolls around, or that big leadership role finally opens up, and somebody else gets the nod.
And you are just left standing there staring at a glowing performance review, completely bewildered.
Bewildered and probably pretty angry. Welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are exploring a really fascinating and honestly slightly unnerving article and a social media brief from SkillDrift.
Yeah, it's titled The Silent Skill Gap. What you don't know is costing you your next promotion.
So our mission today is to dissect exactly why hitting your metrics and working late is just no longer enough to secure your next career leap.
We really want to uncover how identifying these hyper-specific micro-credentials is the actual secret to modern advancement.
So if you have ever felt passed over despite doing everything right, keep your own career aspirations in mind as we figure out exactly what you might be missing.
Because the central concept from our source material really reframes that whole frustration. The issue isn't a lack of talent.
Thank goodness.
Right, and it certainly isn't a lack of work ethic. The obstacle standing between you and that next role is this invisible barrier that HR insiders are calling the silent skill gap.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when I look at my own professional background, my gaps feel glaringly obvious.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know how to code in Python. Boom. Loud, obvious gap. It is right there. Why is the source arguing that the real gaps are invisible?
Well, because what you just described is what the article calls a perceived skill gap.
Okay.
And there's a massive difference between a perceived gap and a verified market mapped gap.
A verified market mapped gap. That sounds very corporate.
It does, but it's crucial. When most professionals self-assess, they look at a senior role and think of these broad, sweeping categories.
Right.
They think, I need to get better at data analysis, or I should take a course in digital marketing, or, like you said, I need to learn Python.
Yeah, the kind of stuff you see as a major header on a college syllabus, it feels like foundational knowledge.
It is foundational, but that is exactly the trap.
Wait, how is that a trap?
Because those broad skills are no longer differentiators. They've just become baseline commodities.
Oh, I see.
Simply stating that you understand data analysis doesn't make you stand out anymore. It's just the basic expectation for even walking through the door.
So it's like putting proficient in Microsoft Word on your resume 20 years ago. It used to be impressive, but now it's just expected.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Treating your career development like a blunt instrument when the market demands a scalpel,
Yeah.
it makes you completely invisible to hiring managers.
Okay, I want to test this logic. Saying, data analysis today feels a lot like saying you know how to cook.
Right. A great baseline life skill.
Exactly. But if you are applying to be the head chef at a Michelin star restaurant, knowing how to cook isn't going to get you the job.
Not at all.
They need to know if you can operate a very specific commercial sous vide machine to exactly 132.5 degrees while managing a brigade of 10 people.
Yes, exactly. Broad categories just do not matter when the job requires hyper-specific execution.
So they don't want a data person.
No, companies aren't looking for a generalist anymore. They are looking for someone who knows the exact, currently trending data visualization libraries.
To build like specific predictive models.
Right, for their third quarter strategy. It is that granular.
But hold on, let me push back on this a little bit. Are broad skills completely useless now?
This raises an important question.
Because should someone just skip learning the basic principles of marketing or general programming and just learn the commercial sous vide machine?
Well,
Because if you only know the machine and the restaurant buys a totally different machine next week, you are out of a job.
right, and the source doesn't say foundational skills are useless. You cannot wield a scalpel if you don't understand basic anatomy.
Okay, that makes sense.
The foundational knowledge is absolutely still required, but you have to understand the sheer market velocity right now.
Market velocity, meaning the speed at which everything is changing.
Exactly. The speed at which technology and business needs are mutating is unprecedented. Because of that speed, hiring managers, and especially the automated algorithms they use to screen resumes, are actively hunting for verified proof of execution microskills.
So they don't care about the theory.
Not at the screening level.
Sure.
They want proof that you can execute the exact micro task they need done tomorrow morning.
Okay, so if the broad skill is the blunt instrument and the micro-credential is the scalpel, I really want to know what this scalpel actually looks like in the wild.
Let's look at the specific industries from the source material.
Yeah, let's start with marketing, because this one genuinely blew my mind.
The marketing example is brilliant because it shows how quickly an entire industry's foundation can just shift overnight.
Right.
For a marketer today, the perceived gap, the blunt instrument, is traditional SEO, or search engine optimization.
Okay, so a marketer wanting a promotion might think, I need to brush up on my keyword strategies to drive more organic traffic from Google.
Exactly.
I actually have a former colleague who did exactly this. He spent 6 months doing a massive deep dive into traditional SEO.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he learned all about keyword density, backlinking, all the tricks to get on the first page of Google. And by the time he finished, his company had completely pivoted to an AI-first strategy.
Oh, that is brutal.
He basically spent half a year mastering the rules of a ghost town. Because the silent gap isn't SEO anymore, according to the article, it is GEO.
Generative engine optimization.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Break down mechanically how GEO actually works.
Sure, because it illustrates the silent gap perfectly. Traditional SEO was about writing for an algorithm that indexed links, right?
Right, where you'd repeat a phrase like best running shoes 5 times on a page.
Which made the internet incredibly annoying to read.
But GEO, generative engine optimization, is entirely different. You are optimizing for an LLM, a large language model, like ChatGPT or Claude.
And they don't care about keyword stuffing.
Not at all. These AI agents are looking for high information density, clear logical formatting, an authoritative tone, and direct answers.
So the micro-credential here is knowing how to structure machine-legible content.
Exactly. So that when a user asks an AI a question, the AI cites your brand as the primary source.
So instead of trying to trick a search engine into listing your website, you are trying to convince an artificial intelligence that your data is the most structurally sound answer available.
Yes. And if you are still optimizing your content for a 2022 search engine, your value as a marketer is quietly plummeting.
And you won't even realize it until you miss the promotion.
Precisely.
But this isn't just about text on a screen. This shift from human evaluation to machine evaluation is completely changing face-to-face roles, too. Look at the sales professional.
Sales is historically the most human-centric job in a company. Right, it's handshakes, reading the room, buying dinners.
So the perceived gap for a salesperson wanting to move into leadership is almost always something like, I need to improve my relationship building skills.
Or, I need to get better at closing deals on Zoom calls.
Which makes sense. That human element is the baseline anatomy we talked about earlier.
But the silent gap is different.
Yeah, top-tier sales roles now demand mastery of AI-driven predictive triggers.
Walk me through what an AI-driven predictive trigger actually is. How does that replace or even augment reading the room?
It is all about moving from reaction to anticipation. A predictive trigger involves analyzing really complex behavioral data sets.
Like what kind of data?
Things like a client's recent web interactions, their email open rates, shifts in their industry supply chain, or even their hiring patterns.
Oh, wow.
The salesperson uses AI tools to synthesize all this data to anticipate a problem the client is going to have next quarter.
Before the client even articulates it. So you aren't just calling them to ask how their quarter is going. You were calling them to say, based on the data, your supply chain is going to bottleneck in 3 weeks, and here's how we solve it today.
Precisely. You are utilizing micro-automations for strategic account development.
So the highly specific skill isn't making small talk. It's reading the behavioral data to predict the future.
Yes.
Okay, so if marketing is relying on LLMs to distribute content, and sales is relying on AI to predict client behavior, it feels like the entire corporate structure is suddenly leaning heavily on artificial intelligence.
It absolutely is.
Which brings us to the people actually building and managing these systems, the tech developers.
And this is where the source material identifies a massive hidden liability.
Yeah, the perceived gap for a developer right now is usually prompt engineering, right?
Right. They think, I need to learn how to write better prompts so I can get the AI to generate code faster.
But the silent gap is what the source calls functional debugging literacy.
Yes, because there is this terrifying phenomenon happening right now that they label the AI passenger syndrome.
The AI passenger, that is such a descriptive term.
It really is. It describes a developer who is fantastic at generating a result using an AI tool. They can prompt an AI to spit out 500 lines of Python code in seconds.
But they lack the functional debugging literacy to actually audit that code.
Exactly. When the code inevitably breaks, or when the AI hallucinates a function that doesn't actually exist, the passenger has no idea how to manually restructure the logic to fix it.
It is exactly like a driver blindly following a GPS navigation system straight into a lake.
Yes.
They are an AI passenger. They don't know how to read the actual physical road signs around them or look out the windshield to see the water approaching.
They just listen to the voice saying, turn right and splash directly into the lake.
The AI is generating the route, but the real value is in the human verification. You have to know when the machine is hallucinating the road.
What's fascinating here is, if we look at the through line connecting all three of these roles, the marketer, the sales professional, and the tech developer, a very stark reality emerges.
What's that?
We are seeing a fundamental shift in where human value actually lies. It is moving away from human-only generation and toward AI-partnered verification and anticipation.
So across almost every industry, the human's core job is now to audit the machine's output and predict the next trend.
Exactly. Rather than manually executing the baseline task, that verification ability is the scalpel.
All right, I follow the logic. But
Yeah.
practically speaking, this introduces a massive problem for the listener.
How so?
These silent gaps like GEO, predictive triggers, functional debugging literacy, they are hyper-specific, highly technical, and constantly evolving.
True.
How on earth do you figure out what your specific silent gap is without just wildly guessing? Because you aren't going to stumble upon functional debugging literacy while casually browsing job boards.
You definitely won't.
Mhm.
And identifying your silent gaps is literally impossible if you're relying on guesswork.
Or generic career advice from a mentor who hasn't job hunted in 10 years.
Right. You need an objective, data-driven mirror to reflect your actual current market value back to you.
And the source material uses SkillDrift's benchmarking engine as a primary example of how the industry is trying to solve this.
Yes. And we should be clear here, SkillDrift is just one example of a massive shift happening in HR tech right now.
Right. We aren't endorsing their specific product.
No, but analyzing the mechanics of how this new wave of talent mobility software actually works is crucial, because it is a completely different paradigm than traditional learning.
So how does it actually work?
Well, the old model was look at a job description, realize you lack a skill, and enroll in a generic course.
Okay.
The new model starts with precision micro-targeting. Instead of giving you the blunt advice to learn marketing, the software cross-references your uploaded resume against live, real-time market demands.
So it scrapes current job postings and analyzes internal promotion data.
Yes, across industries. And it identifies the exact granular micro-credential that is currently missing from your personal arsenal.
It finds the scalpel you are missing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then it changes how you actually acquire that skill. The article outlines a shift toward contextual, bite-sized learning.
Because busy professionals don't have the time to enroll in a 12-week boot camp.
Right. The people working late to hit those KPIs we talked about earlier cannot just stop their lives. So these platforms replace massive courses with highly contextual 5 to 10-minute micro-learnings.
So it's knowledge curated specifically for your gap, designed to be consumed during a morning commute or a coffee break.
Yes, but just reading an article on your phone isn't enough. That leads to the mechanisms of real-time skill evolution and verified proof.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
After taking a 5-minute micro-learning, you take a rapid, heavily randomized quiz that instantly validates your comprehension.
Wait, I have to stop you there. I really struggle with this part of the concept.
Why is that?
You are telling me a hiring manager or an algorithmic screening tool is going to value a 10-minute quiz taken on a subway over a 12-week coding boot camp or a 4-year degree.
I know it sounds crazy.
It sounds incredibly risky for the employer. How does a 5-minute multiple-choice test replace a comprehensive portfolio or the grit it takes to finish a long-term educational program?
It is a completely valid concern.
Yeah.
And it feels counterintuitive to how we were all raised to view education.
Definitely.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it all traces back to that concept of market velocity.
Ah, the speed of change again.
Right. It's not that a traditional degree or a deep dive bootcamp is inherently worthless. Obviously, long-form education teaches critical thinking, endurance, and soft skills that a 5-minute quiz cannot touch.
Right. A rapid quiz doesn't teach you how to manage a difficult stakeholder during a crisis.
Exactly. But the market moves far too fast for long-form courses to keep up with the latest, highly granular AI tools.
So by the time a university develops a curriculum, gets it approved, and teaches a semester-long syllabus on generative AI optimization.
The underlying technology has already gone through 3 new iterations. The syllabus is outdated before the textbook is even printed.
So what does this all mean? It's not that the quiz replaces the degree.
Yeah.
It's that the quiz is the only mechanism fast enough to verify that you know how to use the software update that came out last Tuesday.
Yes, exactly. The core value proposition here is speed and undeniable proof of current relevancy.
A broad skill claimed on a resume is fine, but a hyper-specific micro-credential verified by a real-time data engine today is undeniable.
And that verification leads to the final and frankly most disruptive mechanic mentioned in the text, automated market visibility.
Okay, this is the part that feels a little dystopian to me.
It certainly changes the power dynamic. The moment you complete a micro-learning and pass that rapid verification quiz, your digital resume is automatically updated within the platform's ecosystem.
Without you doing anything else.
Right. This immediately recalibrates your profile. The algorithm instantly matches you with higher-tier jobs and internal mobility opportunities that were completely out of reach just minutes prior.
It completely bypasses the human element at the screening level.
Entirely.
You take a quiz on your phone, an algorithm registers the new data point, and suddenly you are flagged for a promotion by a machine.
And the article notes this isn't a 5-year plan either. They are talking about mapping a career path that can realistically be achieved in just 3 to 6 months.
Just by systematically identifying and closing these granular gaps.
You have to learn to speak the language of the modern hiring algorithm. And that language doesn't run on cover letters or firm handshakes.
It relies on verified, up-to-the-minute data.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway of today's deep dive. The days of climbing the corporate ladder through raw, brute force effort and broad, generalized competencies are definitively over.
They really are. Modern career growth isn't loud.
It isn't about making a massive splash with a brand new 4-year degree in a generalized field.
No, it is deliberate, it is granular, it is entirely backed by real-time data.
And most importantly, it requires you to actively, constantly verify what you don't know, rather than just leaning comfortably on what you do know.
You can no longer afford to guess what the market wants based on outdated job descriptions.
Or past successes, really.
Right. Your next promotion won't come from working harder at the broad skills you already possess. It will come from identifying the silent gap you didn't even know existed and surgically closing it.
And that leaves us with a final, somewhat provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up today.
I love a good provocative thought.
We've talked a lot about algorithms and how systems like SkillDrift act as data-driven mirrors. But look at the bigger picture here.
Okay.
If our digital resumes are now automatically updating to prove our micro-credentials to AI screening agents,
Yeah.
and if our marketing efforts are shifting to generative engine optimization, specifically to be cited by large language models rather than human readers, and if our sales strategies rely on AI to predict human behavior, are we rapidly approaching a reality where our entire professional identity is designed to be read, judged, and promoted strictly by artificial intelligence rather than human beings?
Wow. It is a profound and slightly unsettling shift in how we define professional value.
It really is. We are moving away from trying to impress the human in the room with our broad experience.
And moving toward passing invisible granular tests set by algorithmic gatekeepers.
The corporate ladder we are climbing isn't just physical anymore, it's digital, and the rungs are made entirely of verified data points.
Absolutely.
Keep an eye out for those missing rungs, stay curious about your own silent gaps, and whatever you do, don't let yourself become an AI passenger. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.